It's the Fulhamish podcast, your independent voice of Fulham FC. My name is George Cooper, and welcome to the show. What a Sunday afternoon of football we were treated to by Fulham. A brilliant performance, 3 points in the bag. We've well and truly put Tottenham Hotspur to the sword. The first time we've done a double against them for, over 20 years? What a good feeling that is. Fulham at times were scintillating in this performance, but we did make it a little bit nervy towards the end, let's be honest. But that takes nothing away from what was just a wonderful Sunday afternoon at the cottage. I'm joined by some esteemed guests today. Luke Resch, how you doing, mate? Good to see you.
How good is it just to be alive, eh?
Yeah, it was one of those sort of Sundays where you just love football, right? And God knows we've had many where we feel the opposite, leaving Craven Cottage. But it was just such a fun day, start to finish. Also joined by Mr. Charlie Kipp, who's joining us live from Chicago. How you doing, mate? Good to have you on.
Oh yeah, great to be back. Thanks for having me. Finally getting through a move, as you just alluded to. So first ever recording, first ever reel to do in the new basement. So excited about it.
Yeah, I'm glad you're taking some time out of your, no doubt, incredibly busy schedules, unpacking of boxes to natter Fulham for a bit with us. So it's much appreciated. We're also joined by the one and only AF. Good to see you, man. How you doing?
Yeah, wonderful to be here. A bit of a gruff voice, but that's just because of screaming Alex Iwobi multiple times. I'm loving today. The sun is out. The sun was out yesterday, and I feel like it could keep shining all week after that.
Oh, time to be alive. What have the 3-word reviews been saying, AF? I bet they were in good spirits.
They absolutely were. I mean, it's even better if you love a bit of Tottenham bashing. So let's start with some random Fulham stuff with Tottenham's Tudor tutored. James Wilson with Issa job done. Rick Cardis with unnecessarily squeaky bum. Roachy Baby with dare to double. And our very own Dan Cook with dare to Diop. So we've got a bit of a dare to off going on here.
Yeah, good 3-word reviews. Thanks for everyone who got in touch with them. I mean, just what a day it was. From the moment I left my house to the moment I left the ground, I just had the biggest smile on my face. Game started a little bit, it was obviously a 2:00 kickoff, but I was at the pub just after midday. I wanted to give a shout out to the Fulham NYC crew who were out in force, has to be said. There was about 20 of them in total. They booked out the bottom of the Duke's Head on the river. I saw Sam and Rich and TJ, like many other familiar faces. A few of them I'd had the pleasure to meet when Sammy and I were out in Philadelphia a couple of years back for the summer series. But I mean, what an effort! You know, like I'm lucky enough to live nearby. I can get to Craven Cottage with reasonable ease, but to come over from the States, I mean, commitment to the cause. Charlie, I know you know a lot of the Fulham NYC lot quite well.
Yeah, no, I do, and I saw the socials, I saw the bits and bobs. It made my day, frankly. I mean, the result probably is really what made my day, if we're being completely candid here. But secondarily, second place, silver medal to keep the Olympics team going, is seeing the Fulham NYC guys there. And like you alluded to, not to go all big picture right off the bat, I know we've only just started recording, but I think, one thing I say as a diehard American Fulham fan is, tourists, air quote, foreigners, call it whatever you'd like, non-regular match goers is probably the better way of characterizing it, often get a bad reputation, not just at Fulham, but I think across English football, across global football. It's nice. It's a nice throwaway term to use. Oh, there's a bunch of tourists in the stand today. They weren't making noise, blah, blah, blah. And while there may be merit to that, I always want to just caution and remind people that, for every one or two casuals who may be in town for a vacation and wants to just go see a football match, and as annoying as that can be, there's just as many who are up at all hours, 5 a.m., 6 a.m., watching regularly, and to go to the cottage is truly a pilgrimage. It's a once a year, once a decade kind of dream. And it doesn't matter if it's what seemingly the worst match on the cards. This is what you live for. You've had it on your calendar for months and months. So for those of us who really care, and whether they listen, whether they don't, there's thousands, if not millions around the world across all clubs. And so shout out to anybody making the journey, because it's not something those of us on this side of the pond get to do very often. So always got a soft spot for that story.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, there wasn't a single tourist at the basement of the Duke's Head, I can tell you that for sure. Everyone was so up for the game. And it just really like put a spring in my step because it was obviously so nice to see the guys. But then also just obviously we're lucky enough to, those of us lucky enough to have season tickets, like a Sunday game can, you're excited for it, but it's just part of the course, it's nothing special. Okay, I got to get to the ground. But then to just be met with like the just excitement from everyone at Fulham NYC. They were so up for this game, and it was just like really, really good vibes. And it just carried me throughout the whole match. And I have to say, the cottage on Saturday was about as loud as I've heard it this season. It just seemed like everyone was really up for this game, and we got a performance to match, thankfully. Luke, I just wanted to ask what you thought overall of the game, because it seems to have split opinion quite a lot within the fan base. Half of the discourse I've seen have been Fulham were purring, we were played out of our skins, we really sort of took it to Tottenham, and then half are saying, oh, we really didn't make that easy for ourselves. And it's kind of, I don't know, part of me feels like both are true simultaneously at the same time. We did but it was a little bit too close to comfort at the end. What did you make of it?
Yeah, I mean, yet again, another incredible first half performance from us, and I think we were unlucky not to be at 3 up, if not 4 or 5. That Bassey chance in the 46th minute, we can now all laugh about like he did, but I guess there's always the reality, right, of supporting Fulham, it going 2-1, Richarlison being on the pitch, and you just think, here we go. But to be honest, I thought we played really well. I think there was probably a 5-minute spell after we conceded that goal that Richarlison put away, where I was a bit nervy, and I think they had the momentum in that moment. But actually, I think our back line yesterday really stood up, every single one of them. And I'm sure we'll go on and talk about who stood out and who could have been man of the match. But I just think Kenny Tete, yet again, the difference that he makes to our side cannot be understated. I think 2-1 with Timothy Castagna on the pitch, that would have been where they'd have just continued to try and go down and try and get some joy. But the back line stood firm, and I think we've got to give our defence as much praise for some of these performances as we give a lot of the fluid attacking moves that came off. So yeah, I thought really good performance. First half in particular, then we dug in and got the win. That's a good sign.
Yeah, it was really solid across the board, across the back four. Also, the amount of corners that we conceded and defended throughout the game, it's something that I think on Fulhamish we've may have picked holes in over the past few weeks, but we just look so much more sturdy, really. A lot more confidence from Leno coming to claim and punch, and difference Tessie, mate. I'm fully with you on that, Luke. It's just he just gives the rest of the back line confidence, it feels. One man coming in AF was, of course, Diop, who replaced Anderson, who we are told had flu or was unwell. I mean, an absolutely monumental performance from our big man. And I think another thing to add is that he was actually fasting on Sunday as well, which makes the performance even more impressive. But yeah, I mean, a few thoughts on Diop's performance overall, because I thought it was pretty huge.
Yeah, he was, and I think we can say he's an incredible professional for the fact that, he wouldn't have had the preparation that some of the other players had in knowing that they were either going to start the game or even be in the squad. From what Marco was saying, he wasn't in the hotel the night before. He wasn't really planning on being part of the squad, and all of that changes overnight, and it just shows kind of what condition he keeps himself in. I have noticed on quite a few of the players' Instagram stories that Issa Diop is always on the winning team in those kind of five-a-side games that they play. And I think we're starting to find a reason for that. He is quite incredible on his day. Yes, he can have a mistake in him, but he didn't have a mistake in him yesterday, and it was great to watch. I think the tackle that absolutely summed up his performance was the one on Kolo Muani, where nobody even questioned for a second if it was going to be a penalty, but he clattered the ball and the player. It was wonderful, and that really got everyone off their seats as well, because it set the tone for where Fulham were moving towards. Instead of, we weren't going to sit back and let Tottenham try and take the piss. We were taking the game to them, and Issa Diop really started that from the very back. I think my previous kind of summation on Diop was that he's probably as good a defender as Anderson is, but he seems to have, when he drops a clanger, he really drops a clanger. But when he has a really good game for us, which seems to be more likely in the last kind of year or so, whenever he's played, I haven't really seen him put too many feet wrong. It's maybe his distribution, but I even thought his distribution yesterday really wasn't bad. He was still starting off attacks. He was still positive in defence, but also we just felt calm with him there covering Bassi. So I think it opens up a conversation that's been kind of rumbling around for a while as to, is it Diop or is it Bassi? It opens up that conversation to be had again. And I think if Marco is on a merit basis, you struggle to drop Issa Diop after a performance like that.
Yeah, no, I would have to agree. It's a selection headache for Marco for sure, and obviously you know how Marco works. It's your place to lose now, so it'd be really interesting to see whether Anderson is back to full fitness, and if he is, what decision he goes for, because I can't really call it, to be honest. Just AF, like quickly, what are your thoughts on players sort of calling in sick, as it were? Now, I think people are saying Anderson's got flu, and if he's got flu, then clearly he shouldn't be anywhere near the dressing room. Like, that's like totally fair enough. But it's something that Sammy's quite often. He doesn't believe that players should call in sick effectively. If you've got a cold, you should play. Whereas I'm like, I don't know, if you're not going to be at your best and somebody else is going to, you know, be better than you could be at the moment, then I don't think there's any discussion there. Also, like, you don't want the whole, it's like in the office when someone comes in and they're like coughing and spluttering everywhere. You're just like, mate, just go home, work from home. Like, I don't want to get whatever you've got. I'm just wondering quickly where you stood on that argument.
Well, exactly that. I mean, we got a game on Wednesday, so you don't really want him in around the squad anyway, giving everybody whatever he's got. I think if you have a game the next week, maybe different conversations are had as well. On a performance basis, I remember this came up because of Solanke missing the North London derby because he had a cough. Okay, that's not
it's
really
sore
on.
throat. I think Solanke had, didn't it?
Okay, if it's a sore throat, I kind of like you. It depends what impacts your performance on. But I would go back to when Sander Berger pulled an absolute stinker, like a 3-4 out of 10, and Marco had to come out after the game and go, "Oh yeah, he's been ill all week." Okay, well, if it's going to impact your performance, don't play him. I know we didn't really have much of a choice, but if the same thing, if Anderson starts that game and then Marco comes out after the game after we've conceded 3 goals and says, Anderson was well off it, he's actually been dealing with flu for the last 24 hours, we'd be saying, why would you start that player? So I think that it has to be taken on a case-by-case basis. But same way, if players are calling in sick for things that when you need to rely on them as a football club, I think that's more a culture thing than it is on an individual player basis. Like I couldn't imagine anyone at Fulham, any of the players calling in sick, and I was thinking, I'm not sure that, you know, you probably could have played that game. You're really important to us. Whereas we see it happen at other clubs. I think Marco's got such a spirit and team spirit in there that I feel like the players would do anything for him. So if they're really not up to it, I trust them with that. Whereas I'm not sure I could say the same for some of the our recent opposition, let's say.
Yeah. There's,
Can I just jump in there? So sorry. And I think, you know, we talk a lot about, and you mentioned it as well, Coops, the way that, you know, the merit-based nature of the way Marco picks his side. And I think, you know, have a lot of reason to put faith in him, because I think if he thinks that Anderson is just kind of gone out and had a pretty heavy Saturday night and woke up and was feeling a little groggy on Sunday and wasn't good to go, I think Marco's the kind of guy who would count that against Anderson and say, hey, you've given up your spot. It really is now Issa's to lose. Whereas if he thinks, yeah, and I think what we all probably more believe is the case based on the facts at our disposal, that Joachim really wasn't up for it, flu, call it whatever you like. I'd like to think Marco then would in turn say, okay, well, he hasn't, even no matter how well Diop played, you know, he hasn't really lost his spot, so to say. Because I thought against Sunderland, he had one of his best games in a while, Anderson. So, I mean, like, you know, looking decent. And so if he genuinely was in a place where he couldn't play, I trust Marco to make that decision of like, okay, you haven't done truly anything malicious to lose your spot. It's yours to walk back into in the midweek. Whereas if it's like, hey, I think manager, think you could have played and you chose not to, maybe he holds that actually against him and does sort of move Diop up in the pecking order because he feels like a player's sort of stepped out on him. It's just a thought.
Yeah, I mean, for the record, I've absolutely no doubt that Anderson was not fit to play, whether it be flu or no. I don't think he's the sort of professional who would call in sick as in Pulisic, as it were. I just thought an interesting discussion because I think some people are like, if you've got a cold, get out on the field, you're fine. But yeah, anyway. Let's come on to the goal then, Luke. So Wilson absolutely walloped it home from close range. So some really nice work from Oscar Bob, a little flick on from Rowe, potentially a little extended arm there. Obviously, it fell to Wilson, who made no mistake, but there's been a lot of discourse around this goal. Igor Tudor was pretty fuming, really, after the game. His comments, I think, will land him some kind of fine or ban, I would imagine. But effectively, he said Jimenez was not thinking about the ball. He was thinking about how to cheat. So he cheated by pushing the player. It's cheating, which I think is a little bit harsh, given, okay, maybe he had his arm outstretched, but I think contact is fairly minimal. I don't know. I think for me, it's a goal. It stands. I can understand, given the context of what happened in the North London derby, with a push on Gabriel, the goal that was disallowed, why they would feel aggrieved. But for me, it's a goal. I think, for the record, I think both goals should have stood. What was your take on it? Let's get to the bottom of why Tottenham was so outraged.
I think we've found the answer to the debate. Are they more Spursy or are we more Fulhamish? Because to have a goal disallowed the week before for a very similar, let's say, infringement on a defensive player, and then to concede that and it get given. Oh, I mean, that is, you can understand, can't you? Like, as Fulham fans, we've had our share of VAR decisions that just seem to completely, blow our minds. You look back really early to the season to the goal we scored against Chelsea that got disallowed. And so, Marco has very consistently said all season, these things they'll even themselves out. Raul's is he that kind of player? Is Raul's reputation known for being someone that's just trying to cheat? Not really. I think, I've watched back the game again, and the commentators say it doesn't look like Dragusin's getting to that ball anyway. So I think it's kind of a last desperate attempt. But rather than just talk about that area of it, what I actually thought was brilliant about the goal is Wilson's movement to get into that position to score. I think is maybe something that not everyone has seen, because the ball deflects after Raul tries to nudge it across. And it's only because Wilson sees that deflection and has the sense of mind to get into that right position that he's then in that space to finish it. And that, again, just speaks to the season that he's having. He's seeing those small things that perhaps he wouldn't be seeing if he was in this form or have the confidence to put himself in that position. And again, he's given us a goal that's a big goal at this moment that continues this good run of form that we're finding ourselves in, as well as him.
I seem to find myself watching Harry Wilson thinking, he's not really in this game. He's not really in this. Oh, he's popped up and he's scored an absolute worldie. That's my normal thought process within a Fulham game. Oh, where's Harry Wilson? It's really weird. And I remember saying, oh, isn't it weird how we've got two wingers in Oscar Bob and Harry Wilson who aren't really touching the ball. Oh, Harry Wilson's just scored a worldie. It happens so often, and I feel as though, exactly what Luke was mentioning with him kind of adjusting his positioning. When you watch it back almost in slow motion, you can see as soon as that kind of deflection hits, he readjusts his body so he's going to hit a volley. There's very few players in our squad that's going to think, do you know what, I'm going to hit a volley here. And you compare that, they're obviously in a very different position, but to Bassey's chance, which is basically the same area from that corner, and how differently both players attacked that. Most of our players are attacking it like Bassey did and smashing it over the bar. So when we're talking about the value of Harry Wilson, we're talking about it in comparison to the rest of our squad. The ability to make split-second decisions that end up in a goal. Not necessarily what they're giving to an entire 90 minutes of football, but what they can give in those moments. And he is a moments player, but I think we're learning to love and accept that.
Yeah, no, I 100% agree with everything you just said there, AF. Also, you get the sense of just how feared he is amongst our opponents as well. They are fully aware of the threat that he holds. And I think you most clearly saw this in the chance that Emil Smith-Rowe missed, I think it was earlier on in the second half, where Iwobi's carrying the ball and Wilson makes a diagonal run and completely draws the defence away from him, leaving a beautiful load of space for Emil Smith-Rowe, and Iwobi finds him. And you just get the sense that teams are really sort of cautious of what he's capable of, because he does just seem to have this ability at the moment just to not really do much and then pop up where it really matters. And the difference that having players like that in the squad are going to make come the end of the season is it's going to be huge. Kippo, let's talk about the second goal. Fulham were scintillating first half. I thought, we had many chances. Kenny Tessie had a chance. He sort of dragged wide, a Bassi header from a corner. But on the 33rd minute, we double our lead. And what a strike. I mean, had we not had two of... they were already goal of the months. We had back-to-back goal of the months with Harry Wilson against Palace and Harrison Reed against Liverpool. Were it not for those goals, a goal like this would be a very strong contender to be Fulham's goal of the season. I've watched it so many times that he hits it with such power, but makes it look so effortless. It's like he passes it in from 25 yards. It's inch perfect in terms of finesse. It's got unbelievable amounts of power considering how languid the strike looked. It was just a thing of beauty. It was like a snooker shot.
It is, like you said, I mean, you could make a case that it is one of the goals of, you could make a case for it being goal of the season. I'm not sure I'd agree with you given the other ones, but I'd hear you out on your case, which I think is pretty exceptional given the fact that, like you say, when you see it in real time, I was obviously watching on television, but I'm like, oh wow, what a goal. And then each time you watch it over and over, you pick up something new. You're like, oh wow, it hasn't even hit the ground. Like that's the one when I watched it back this morning. I was like, oh, well, it was about what, 7-8 inches off the ground on a rope the entire time, never once even clipped the grass. There's things like that. I mean, outside of the foot, it looks so casual. He hasn't embellished it. He hasn't sold it. It's that there's not a lot of unnecessary motion. It's all just perfection, I think. And for me, the fact that he took it first time off a lovely layoff from Harry is the kind of thing where, I mean, how often do we have, whether it's us or other teams, you have a highlight, you have a moment, you're like, man, why did they take that extra touch? Why did they take that extra touch? And, football is very difficult, but I just think when you do see something come off first time, it just goes to show, I mean, that's when you have the most space inherently. And his, I think it speaks to his confidence. I know they spoke on the Thursday Club a little bit about how Iwobi, since AFCON, where he was exceptional for Nigeria, has been fine. Yeah, I don't think he's certainly been the player we know he's capable of being. And not just that goal, which I think I want to give everyone a chance to speak to, because I think everybody would have their own observations, and it was that great. But I think across the game yesterday, in that number 8 role, he just was felt everywhere. It's like, this is the Alex Iwobi. I mean, it was peak Iwobi. It was exactly what we know he's capable of on his day, which is just reassuring and awesome to see him continue to sort of rediscover that form. But the goal, there's no one's saving that. I mean, you, as I think many of us did, you go back and you revel in sort of the Spurs fan cam misery. At least I certainly enjoy it. Maybe that makes me a sicko. I think that just makes me a normal person. And you hear some of them giving stick to Vicario. I'm like, I don't know about that. I don't think there's, peak Manuel Neuer's not. I think Vicario did get maybe a fingertip to it, but just lower right off the post in just chef's kiss perfection.
Yeah, I mean, it was perfect. He was magisterial yesterday. It was a 10 out of 10 performance, I think. His link up play, his constant desire to get forward and drive this team forward. The through balls that he was finding were peak Tom Kearney. Obviously the finish for the goal. I love what you said, Kippo, about every time you watch it, you notice something else beautiful about it. It's all listening to Abbey Road over again, and it's like a little arrangement there. But I mean, I fully concur. And I mean, hats off Alex Iwobi. Played an absolute blinder yesterday. I want to quickly come on to some of the chances that I personally believe Fulham had to put the game to bed. So we've already mentioned the Bassi miss, in which, I mean, I think it's case of wrong player wrong time. I mean, the thing is, we've seen Bassi finish them. The credit to him against, Manchester United springs to mind. We've seen balls fall to Bassi in the box, and he has put them away. So he has done it before. But yeah, it was just leaning back. Oscar Bob sort of scuffed the pass to him, and it was all just happened a bit too quick. But for me, I think the miss from Emile Smith-Rowe, AF, the one that we mentioned earlier, where Wilson draws the defender. He's got plenty of time. Now, I'm willing to. I personally believe that this is an absolutely brilliant save from Vicario. I think, yes, Issa should be scoring, but I think we need to give credit to the goalkeeper here, because he's off his line so quick. He closes down the space, closes down the angle. I was having a chat with Sammy this morning, and his argument was we need Issa to start contributing with goals. His performances have been really positive, and he's definitely improving. But for a number 10, we need to pitch in with goal involvements, with assists, and with goals. He's like, if that falls to Harry Wilson scores. If that falls to Iwobi scores. I don't know. I feel like we had opportunities yesterday to really put Tottenham to the sword. At halftime, I was thinking we could beat them 4-5-0 here, and it could be, a really fantastic result. It was 2-1. It was still a great result, but AF, I kind of still have that feeling that there were missed opportunities.
I think whenever I talk about Emile Smith-Rowe, I have to start with how far he's come, almost. So where he started off, scintillating, amazing. I love this Emile Smith-Rowe. Oh my God, we've signed the best player. Then there was the dip, and the dip happened, and he was passing it back. Like, we have to remember where he was. He was passing it backwards from dropping into the number 8 position, deeper than that, and every pass went back into our defence, and he was not creating a single chance. Fast forward to now, and we're having Emile Smith-Rowe breaking forwards on most breaks. I'd say the kind of outlier to that was the Sunderland's goal that we scored last week, where he wasn't part of that break. But realistically, whenever Fulham are making a break, he's part of it, and that is a good thing. He's kind of the assist to the assist, and I know that never turns up in the stats. It never turns up on fantasy football, but he's usually the assist to the assist when we watch it. He is linking our play together, and I do think he's doing much better. I agree with Sammy's summation of this, that he needs to be adding goals and assists to his game. But let's talk about that. The two chances he had. The first one where he kind of goes through on the left-hand side that Bob plays him through. I think Bob actually delays the pass slightly too late, which puts Emile slightly off his stride, and that means that he's closer to the goal than he fancied being. He's probably got less of an angle to be able to hit that with his left foot, and he can never, he's never going to get his right foot around that. That was a more difficult chance. Could he have squared it? And maybe it's decision making is what we're looking at. But the chance that you speak about where he's one-on-one, you're right. Anyone else in our team is scoring that. And I think that he does have to work on those, because he's going to get opportunities when we have the attack that we have. He's going to end up in one-on-ones. Vicario makes a great save, but he is so lightning quick out there that you say Harry Wilson would score it, Iwobi would score. I'm not sure, because I actually think that Vicario is probably saving it from most people there. And I blamed him at the time. I was thinking, that Smith-Rowe should have put that one away. I think it would have felt better for Fulham if we had put that away, but I don't think many players are scoring in that position unless they hit it first time. And hitting it first time, maybe that's something Harry Wilson does. We've seen him do that against Spurs, but I'm not sure that everyone is going to think that quickly when you've got a goalkeeper who was actually did fairly well for them. I think for Emile to kick on to the next level, to get goals and assists in his game, he's kind of stopped playing in the middle third. He's kind of playing in the final third now, which is where we need him most. He's playing great link-up play, but I think we'll have some consistency with probably Bob on the left for a significant period of time, and a mixture of Wilson and Chukwueze on the right. Then I think he's going to get more consistency in his games to be able to actually build where he's going to be.
Yeah, I think it will come, and it's only a matter of time, really. We know what he's capable of. We've been saying this for weeks now on Fulhamish, and it's almost there. It's like it's right on the cusp of being something very special. You said there that you believe that Vicario had an all right game. I mean, he made that very good save. He made another good save at some point as well. I think Fulham had 4 shots on target in total. But I mean, his distribution was absolutely laughable yesterday. There was that free kick that he took. I was sat with my little brother Fred, and he sort of said, "Oh, I'll take this free kick." And you're thinking, "Where's this going? He's going to launch it into the box," and then he just like kicks it into touch from absolutely like nowhere. And my little brother just went, "I think that was the worst bit of football I think I've ever seen." It was really bad, and like he's been doing the rounds on socials as well. But I think it just kind of like encapsulated Tottenham's performance, because I know they made it a bit nervy for us towards the end, but I mean they were really bad, I thought, yesterday.
I think he had an all right game in the fact that he made a couple of saves and none of his errors really contributed to us having a goal like it did at their place. I actually completely forgot how bad he was, because all of the Spurs players were making complete howlers. But yeah, that one was absolutely laughable. Where he hit it out for touch as well. I kind of was thinking, I like put my finger in there, like, is there like wind? Has it caught the wind like and just gone flying? But then you realise it was kind of completely not that. It was just pretty calm. He's just hit out of play. And I then looked up, is the pitch that much longer? It's not really that much longer than Spurs that he plays at every week. And then I asked a Spurs fan, he said, "Oh no, he's done that before." So actually, it's I don't know how they've got to the point that Vicario is kind of, he must be so good at one-on-one stopping that they keep him in there. But how do you go a whole season with someone constantly making kind of comedic errors and still rely on them in goal? I'm not sure.
Yeah, I mean, it's like his shot stopping is admittedly good. I think that's the best part of his game. His distributions is the worst goalkeeper's distribution I've seen since Button played for us. And you know, every time he got the ball, you're just like, where is this going? Like, I mean, it must be. Yeah, it must. It's very. The thing is, like, when you have a goalkeeper who's not good at his feet and not good at distributing, it just invites so much pressure. Like, I think he put it out into touch completely unchallenged on like 2 or 3 occasions, like sort of like hapless fly half trying to kick touch. It was just like, I don't know. It wasn't the best performance, I don't think. I mean, like, Luke, do you think? I mean, Tottenham, I thought were bad. Do you feel like they're realistically in trouble? Do you think that we could see that magnificent new stadium in the Championship next year? Because I mean, they've got absolutely no hint of a new manager bounce. Sort of like, I don't know. I think I'd be getting slightly nervous if I were Tottenham.
That's it. Do I think they'll get relegated? No. Do I think they are actually in a relegation fight? Absolutely. There's nothing about the performance that they gave yesterday that shows me that they're a team that are going to pick up 3 points anytime soon. And if this was Fulham in that position in the league with West Ham and Forest on the points they're on, of course I would think, oh my goodness, we need to get some points on the board quickly. Or I'd be looking at the games coming up thinking, where are the points coming from? Because, like you've said, Vicario is a good shot stopper. I personally think a confident Smith Rowe just takes that round him and puts it in the back of the net. I think they gave us probably at least 5, if not more, big chances to score yesterday. And you can't do that every single week against teams and expect to pick up points.
This Fulhamish video is brought to you by NordVPN. Now, the Fulham season is reaching a very exciting conclusion, and the best and safest way to follow all the action is with NordVPN, the fastest VPN on the planet. Now, there are so many advantages to using a NordVPN account. Firstly, you can subscribe to services in different countries, or you can use your paid subscriptions from your home country whilst you travel abroad. You can also stay safe from phishing scams and malware with Threat Protection Pro. Now, if you get stuck, Nord has 24/7 customer support and a 30-day money-back guarantee for all users. Plus, sign up with one account and it'll protect up to 10 of your devices. Right now, Fulhamish YouTube viewers can get a huge discount on the 2-year plan with an extra 4 months for free. To get that deal, just go to nordvpn.com/Fulhamish or scan the QR code on screen now. Then use the word Fulhamish at checkout to grab that amazing deal. Stay protected and save money with NordVPN whilst you cheer on Marco and the boys at the end of this Fulham season. Scan the QR code on screen now to get started.
Yeah, I think that's fair. Tottenham also, there's a fun fact that they picked up their 70th yellow card this season as a team, which is already an all-time record for a Premier League side, and it's only March. You can only think of who may have contributed handsomely towards that sum, but yeah, it's not looking great for Spurs at the moment. Just a quick word on our former enforcer Kippo. So Palhinha, I didn't think he was great yesterday at all. He looked kind of, I don't know, just it wasn't the João Palhinha performance that we're used to, where he effectively performs the role of two central midfielders. He had a shot blocked at the very end. We'll come on to Tottenham's goal shortly, but that was the sort of moment that had my heart in my mouth, because I was like, oh no, you could just see that happening. But right at the very end, he came over to the Fulham faithful, to Hammersmith end, and applauded the Hammersmith end, which was, I mean, lovely for us to see. And we were singing his name, but I can only imagine if you were a Spurs fan, how that must have felt. And it was actually quite interesting, because there was a member of Tottenham's backroom staff on the halfway line who was actually trying to talk him out of doing it. Like, I can imagine he was saying, like, oh, this, might piss some people off. Like, do you really want to do this? And João was very headstrong, as we know he can be, and just continued to do it anyway. He was tapping his heart, making heart love signs. We were singing his name, and I mean, yeah, I can only imagine. If you were a Spurs fan, how would you be feeling watching that after the manner of their defeat?
Livid. I would be incensed, right? And I think, and I don't know if that is like a referendum on. Look, I think realistically, it's probably just João being João, and him being someone who
passionate,
is grateful to Fulham for the opportunity that we gave him, and breaking into the Premier League and all those things. And he was, he wore his heart on the sleeve, and I think the fans gave it back to him all love. So I think there's a really strong bond and relationship there. I think that's probably the main takeaway, which is a lovely, beautiful thing. And I, as a Fulham fan, God bless him for doing it. I think it's awesome. It's a touching moment, and it's really, really cool. I think if you force me to extrapolate it out, I wonder if that is like a referendum on the headspace of the Fulham squad, or excuse me, the Tottenham squad, and being like, hey, yeah, you are in a relegation fight. This was not just a throwaway loss at the Cottage, and it's okay because you're in 7th or 8th, and oh well, on to the next one. Like, I think the reason the fan base, I don't know if should or but will be so incensed is, like, think of the situation, think of what just happened. This is a game where I didn't watch many of the Fulham, I keep the second time I've done that. It's embarrassing. The Spurs sort of preview content ahead of it. But, even given what the Thursday club were kind of talking about, when I think a lot of the fan base probably felt it was like, oh no, Spurs coming in here, no wins in 2026. How Fulhamish would it be? Blah, 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 blah. And I think, and then having again failed to get a result of any manner. And in the way it happened, by the way, I mean, the scoreline is not a real objective look at the match that played out. They were pretty much utterly dominated. So that's where I think the frustration would come in from, is it's like, we are scrappy and clawing for every point. We are fully in a relegation fight. That is not the time of the year. That is not the situation in which you want to see one of your, foundational players going and, not just giving a few claps from the halfway line and kind of going back to the dressing room, but fully approaching the hammy end, banging the heart. Like, okay, easy, Tiger. I think that'd be the reaction as a Spurs fan. But again, from a Fulham perspective, absolutely love it. And open invite, João. Welcome back anytime, my friend.
Yeah, I loved it.
Did you see the video beforehand of Calvin Bassey giving him, like, basically cuddles? And this is before the game, by the way. So there's, like, when they kind of come out the tunnel, you can see it just when they're kind of like, I think the Tottenham squad had just arrived, and they're genuinely having like a 5-minute cuddle before the game. Now, as much, again, from a Fulham fan perspective, I love it. Again, open invite back to the Cottage. But there is a part of me that's actually quite concerned about that mindset, because if he was to come to Fulham, like, we've obviously seen him fight for the shirt and all of that. I know he's been treated badly at Bayern Munich and Tottenham. But I think that actually let me down a little bit, because I thought that João was just like, whoever I'm playing for, I'm 100% in there. But watching him having that before the game and then doing that after the game, again, Fulham perspective, absolutely love to see it. But I think if he was to ever come back here, that would concern me a little bit. If we did end up in, a relegation battle, I'm thinking, is that someone whose head is 100% in whatever club he's in? It's just one to bear in mind. I don't think it was the best mindset or professionalism that's ever been shown. But at the same time, if you were Tottenham, I'd be spitting feathers everywhere.
Are you saying you're worried that João's gone soft AF? Is that what you're saying?
I don't think he's gone soft, but he was definitely soft on us for the entire game, wasn't he? Like, I mean, the last time I saw him was he came back and he had that match where he watched it in one of our executive boxes. I think he's just never fallen out of love with Fulham. So the reason he couldn't put in a decent tackle yesterday, and the reason Oscar Bob took the ball back off him to go and create more goals, It's because he was basically playing for us for the entire game. So, might as well just pay his lower salary and bring him back. But yeah, it was pretty disappointing if you're a Tottenham fan.
At least if he comes back, we don't have to worry about him clapping the Spurs fans because they'll be busy with Preston away. But it's all good and well.
Say hello to QPR, lads. Anyway, despite Giles Ansix and the rest of the squad's Ansix, they did actually find a goal against us, Luke. So a wonderful Archie Gray cross has to be said. A little battle between Tete and Tell, and then Richarlison. Who else but Richarlison left sort of unmarked at the back post? Do you think perhaps Cesc could have got a little bit tighter? I mean, also, just as soon as Richarlison came on, I was like, oh, okay, well, obviously he's scoring against us. And there was quite a funny thread that I saw on X that somebody said, has he got the most amount of consolation goals in Premier League history? He always seems to bag a goal when it the game's already sort of gone, and but he always seems if I had to picture Richarlison scoring, it's like, there's goals where it goes in the back of the net and then the striker is immediately in the net trying to grab the ball, get it back to the centre spot, and obviously he had the little scuffle with Bassi afterwards, which was quite enjoyable to see. But yeah, just on the goal, any complaints from you at all, Luke? It felt like perhaps a little bit sloppy.
I don't think any complaints about the goal as an individual goal, because I think, like you said, Tell and Gray, really nice link up, really great feet from Tell. I mean, perfect cross from Archie Gray, who, bless him, is filling in yet another position that he'd probably rather not be starting in the Premier League. But it is an inch perfect cross. It's a great cross onto Richarlison's head, and he's not missing from there. I think more broadly, it yet again shows that we are susceptible from balls into the box like this. It feels like when we get pulled slightly from a nice bit of interplay by a team, no one knows whose name's going on across into the box. We've looked at it with Anderson at times in the season. I think Bassi and Sessegnon at times can fall into the trap of not knowing who's going for it. And I don't think it helps that Sessegnon's, probably a couple of inches shorter than we'd like him to be when a cross like that comes into the box. So, yeah, like I said, we were so dominant, controlled all of the game. I think that's maybe a moment where we've just taken our eyes off of, or should I say, we've taken our foot off the pedal completely, and we've been made to pay, because at the end of the day, we are in the Premier League. Any one of the other 19 teams in this league will punish you if you stop playing at your best for a few minutes.
Yeah,
I believe Fulham have been guilty. I think Fulham have been guilty of, when teams make substitutions, we seem to think that they're going to play exactly how they have for the previous 70 minutes. So Tottenham was so bad for 70 minutes. We saw basically no crosses going from the left-hand side because Xavi Simons was playing most of his time as a number 10 and cutting inside. There was no real overlaps. Well, he never really found Archie Gray out on the left at all. And it wasn't working for them at all. And Fulham assumed that was going to continue when those substitutions were made, and it took some time. I always find it takes time for us to adapt to those changes rather than preemptively going, actually, Tottenham have just made this change, we should probably just reinforce this, our right back side, because they're about to get a little bit more dangerous, because Tell is their most dangerous player at this point in time. Let's probably go and cover there a little bit extra. And Richarlison's just come on, maybe watch him at the back post, because that's where he scores most of his headers. I think there were just a few situations where we're naive in the changes happening aren't going to make a team better. We saw the same thing happen against Everton when they made a bunch of changes and they suddenly got better. It's not magic. We often get better when we make subs as well. But I do think that our adaptation takes some time. After that point, though, we were pretty solid. I think it almost drummed the point home that, do you know what? We need to be better from these crosses. We, in the end, brought on Jorge Cuenca and went 5 at the back, and they didn't really look, even when they brought Vicario up for the final free kick, I wasn't as worried in that period as I was just before and after their goal when they looked the most dangerous. But adapting to changes is something that Fulham and maybe Marco Silva have to get a little bit better at.
I to your point, AF, I did think that it was a very solid defensive performance across the board, and we saw the game out. And whilst it was a little bit nervy, that was more a reflection of our collective our collective sort of atmosphere as a fan base rather than the actual performance itself. And it was a thoroughly deserved 3 points. The scoreline, I think, flattered Tottenham more than it flattered us. And yeah, it was just a really, like, you know, I feel like we're approaching a very exciting time of the season right now as Fulham fans. We've got a really, really important 4 games coming up, really. We've obviously got Saints at home in the 5th round of the Cup. I mean, a win there will see us progress. And, you know, I think everyone across the Fulham faithful are really up for a cup run this year. So that'll be no doubt a big game. And then, I mean, we're playing 3 of the bottom 4 over our next league games, Kippo. So we've obviously got West Ham on Wednesday, Forest away on the 15th, and then on the 21st we are at home to Burnley. If we can pick up 9 points from these 3 games, then we are in for an absolute, you know, it's approaching, you know, we're following football, I feel, following the Premier League. You hit a bit of a slump in February where January you're like, you know, the where you are sitting and what your actual ambitions are for the season is a little bit up in the air, and, you know, it's sort of, it gets a bit, you know, the games can get a bit of game fatigue maybe, and you're not quite as excited, and the games are like, you're not far enough in the season that every game has that much significance because there's still time. But I mean, now, like, I feel like we're approaching the business end where every game is huge, and I feel like if Fulham can win this next 3, then we're in a stage where we are thoroughly in contention for Europe. Every game is massive, and I don't know, it just feels very exciting at the moment. How do we summarise how important these next 3 are in the league?
They're massively important, and I mean, not to pour cold water and be the pessimist in the room, but if you'll indulge me a minute, I mean, I'm so optimistic. Let me strike that. I'm not optimistic, actually. I'm hopeful, which I think are different words. And you know, it's a little bit Sisyphus, right? It's a little bit pushing the boulder up the hill. I feel like the last 2 years around this time of year, we've had the conversation of like, oh, if only we can take advantage of these next couple games, we might be really in with a shot. And by the way, the fact that the fixture list kind of shakes out the way it does gives us a real shot. I think the fact that we've won 2 on the trot, playing the way we have, gives me genuine optimism. So I'm doing a bit of a bit here. I'll acknowledge that readily. I'm just a bit scarred because this is now the 3rd year in a row where it's sort of been entering into springtime, and it's like, okay, opportunities in front of you, sitting right there. It's sort of the best of the rest, so to speak, in the table. And like this, it's 2 years in a row where we've just failed to take advantage. And so hopefully, like, the team may well be sparked by those previous shortcomings and understand that, like, look, we enter the season with 2 goals, one of which is to achieve safety. I think if Sunderland didn't do it, I think this match certainly did it. I think, like, the talk of safety can be well and truly dead, and it's March 2nd. So, like, that is worth praising, admittedly. But now that box has been ticked, it's like, let's look to, you know, jolt onwards here and try to really achieve something and not be in a position where we're talking on May the 5th or whatever it is. Like, oh yeah, 11th, solid season. And by the way, if that happens, like, I'm never going to not be grateful to have a stable Premier League club that we're all supporting. Like, I don't lose sight of that, but, you know, like I've just said, 2 years in a row, there's been this opportunity. It just flat out has not been taken. So, you know, if I know that, Lord knows Marco knows that. But yeah, I mean, I think, you know, you say 9 points. I think like 7 is like the bare minimum if we really want to achieve something. Like, it needs to be at least 2 wins and a draw from the next 3. And then at that point, I think we can have a real conversation about how does the table look? What does it like feel actual optimism versus hope? Right now I have hope, but I hope that can be converted to optimism somewhat soon.
Yeah, I've got no doubt that Marcus was going to be, you know, speaking to the players before and really emphasising what an opportunity this is. You know, let's not let this slip. Let's really sort of turn the screw here. We got some questions we're going to come on to now. So Alfred Duke 10 asks on X, AF, is consistency still the biggest barrier between Fulham and European contention?
Absolutely. I think, as Charlie's just spoken about there, it's the expectation is that Fulham will at some point do a Fulhamish and we will just let a run go. And it's always the games. I'm looking at West Ham right now and I'm thinking that is if we win that, it shows consistency, because it's consistency between two home wins, between two teams that are fighting relegation. The consistency with Fulham is actually that we might have gone out in the season and got a result against one of the top four, but then we would go the next week and play someone in the bottom six and then lose. And that was the consistency that was missing. We expect to lose to the likes of Arsenal and City sometimes, right? Every time with City. But what we don't expect is like not knowing what Fulham's going to turn up. And if the same Fulham that turned up on Sunday turns up against West Ham, we're winning that game. So it's that consistency and not just performance, but mentality that you are playing a team that is not just worse than you, significantly worse. Let's go and put them to the sword. Then trying to put a layer of runs together, like wins together, it scares me with Fulham, because if we can't do it now, even when we've got kind of the squad that we do, I don't think I can't see a time in the future when we're ever going to have that consistency, where we're going to be able to push towards a European place. So it does feel a bit all or nothing for me, and I hope it doesn't feel the same way for the players, because that pressure won't really help them. But I think trying to get that runs of 4-5 games with at least wins and draws and unbeaten runs, I'd love to see that consistency from Fulham. And then if we do, look, we're finishing 7th and 8th or 8th.
We've got another question on that point from Fred Martin on X, Luke, who says, 10 to go. Here's our mini league. He says, yes, I've dragged them lot in. So the mini league is a screenshot of the table as it stands from 6th to 14th. So Chelsea are 6th currently, play 28. All the teams that I'm about to mention have played 28, but they're on 45 points. Brentford on 7th, 43. And then Everton and Fulham are tied. They're just ahead of us on goal difference, just by 1 on 40 points. And then Bournemouth are on 39 beneath us. He goes on to say, what do we think the marker for 7th is? My thinking is 58 to 59 points, but could be less. Has to be minimum 5 wins for us either way, in my opinion. I mean, I think if you're looking at the our run of fixtures, if you're thinking minimum 5 wins, the next 3 games are arguably our biggest opportunity. What do you think the barometer for 7th is at the minute, Luke?
Yeah, I was thinking about this yesterday. I think it's between 58 to 60. When I was trying to work out what I think we need for 7th, I landed at 59. I just think at least one of those other teams will get there. I think the fact that, you've got Brentford on 43 already and a lot of the other teams on 40, I think someone will put a run together, and I'm hoping that is us that puts that run together. I think we're bang in contention for this. I don't think Chelsea fall lower than 6th, if I'm honest. I'm not including them in a race for 7th. So I think it is Brentford down to Bournemouth, really. I think I'm probably most nervous about Everton, just because I think that they are so solid. But the one thing that intrigues me about them is how many fewer goals they've scored, if I remember rightly, than most of the other teams. I feel like most of the other teams have scored 5 or 6 more goals, which doesn't sound like many, but actually when you're getting into this end of the season where every goal is going to count, every point is going to count for European qualification, I think that although, like I've just said, I could see them just grinding their way. That Jordan Pickford save at the weekend, I'm sure we've all seen, from a shot that looks like it's going about 250 miles an hour, powered by a new F1 engine. He had no right to save that, and yet he did. And I think the belief that they are going to have after that win against Newcastle is absolutely enormous. So I'm probably most nervous about them. Obviously, most scared that it's Brentford that finish 7th and we miss out to them. But long-winded answer of saying I think probably about 59 points.
Yeah, so if you look last year, 65 points, Nottingham Forest finishing 7th. I think last year was a bit of an anomaly just because the bottom half was so bad. I feel like it's a stronger league across the board this year. And then 23-24, Newcastle finished 7th on 60. So I think you're probably right in your summation of around 60 points, Luke. But I mean, yeah, I guess it's not even worth thinking about what would happen if Brentford did pip us to the post. But obviously, we've got that game at the G-Tech to look forward to. For those of you who've done your fun run application forms. So we got another question here. I'll chuck this one to you, Kippo. It's from Ian, who says, who would you take from the Spurs squad if they were to get relegated? It's a very good question. I mean, I think you could see at the end of the game the connection that Marco Silva has with Richarlison, and he was obviously the manager who brought Richarlison to the Premier League when he was manager for Everton. I think that if we get any opportunity to strengthen the Samba Whites is one that potentially could be taken. I've always liked him. I think he's just one of those sort of nutty flair players, of the sort of maverick. I think he's sort of a weird cross between, I don't know, he's sort of a Ed Steen of himself, Richarlison, isn't he? Like technically, you can pull out a bicycle kick out of nowhere, but then also he's got that physicality and that sort of tenaciousness that you don't often associate with Brazilian players. But yeah, I would personally be looking at Richarlison. Are there any other members of the squad that you'd and João Palhinha, obviously, goes without saying. But any others?
It's Dragusin for me. No, I'm kidding. I think Archie Gray, there's a hell of a player in there. I think it's not his fault that he's been forced into these odd roles, due to, call it an injury crisis, call it you can probably strike the word, just call it a crisis at Spurs. No need for the word injury. But so I think Archie Gray has upside. I think clearly he does have some modicum of versatility, even if he's being plugged into these spots. But, Igor Tudor is clearly looking to have him on the pitch in some way, shape, or form. I think that speaks well to who he is as a player. And then I know he was absolutely kind of held and Bassi, or not Bassi, well, both, but in Diop's pocket yesterday. But I think on his day, I've seen Randall Colomwani at the continental level. I mean, he was at Eintracht Frankfurt, was it, for a while? And I think I just continue to think that, to take it very practically for a second, we probably know that as much as we love the guy, Rowe isn't our forever striker. Good to see Muniz getting back into the team. I think we all still believe in Rodrigo to a certain extent, but a guy like Colomwani, who, I think you're probably right, Coops, that Richarlison may well be the more Fulham coded player on a certain level, but to have a guy who's, if Mbappe's out, is capable of being the starting number 9 for France, be at Fulham, hard for me to look past that.
Yeah. Fair point. Also, I mean, Van der Ven, quality centre-back, but I think if we're being realistic, he may be a somewhat unrealistic target. He'd be highly coveted elsewhere. Yeah, we've got some more questions here, kind of looking ahead to the West Ham game. So, AF, we've got a question from Aldwin on Telegram. If we beat West Ham, do we sound the horn? What do you reckon?
I mean, it's horn-worthy. It
certainly would be.
I mean, I could argue that after Alex Iwobi scores with a side foot, that's horn-worthy, but that's for different reasons, right? Let's go with if we win against West Ham, 3 wins in a row, there is sound the horn, start the taxis. We're going to the airport, but yeah, I definitely think it's horn-worthy. The other thing that would make it interesting from my perspective is, how many times can we sound the horn after the first time? Because after you've then just gone, you know what, there's West Ham, that brings a new level of confidence that we've beaten Sunderland, Tottenham, West Ham. Does that mean the Forest game is completely, we'll just go and draw that and we'll make it 7 points? Or does it make it more likely that we go and somehow try and get 4 wins there? Because it seems possible to me.
I think momentum is everything, right? We've seen in this Fulham side, we string together wins off the back of, the confidence that goes to the side. We're lucky enough to sort of seemingly be in a good, rich vein of form. And we've got players fully fit squad as well. You look at the attacking, I know Kevin's obviously just been injured, but the attacking riches we've got on our bench, bringing on Chukwueze on at the time that we did on Sunday, it's terrifying. And he is playing well as well. I thought he would probably been felt quite hard done by not to be starting. Obviously, Oscar Bob Great to see him. I thought he was brilliant on Sunday as well. But I mean, we've got such attacking riches, and yeah, I don't know. I feel like we press on. I think if we beat West Ham, I would fancy us to get a result at Forest.
When last season, when we didn't put that run together and we ultimately fell off, we blamed it on the January transfer window, and we had a few injuries as well that stopped us really getting to that point. And I felt in the January transfer window, we definitely have missed a number 8. By the sounds of it, Lukic is coming back. It's not really the number 8 we maybe need, but who knows? But we did sign Oscar Bob, which at the time, again, I was thinking, do we really need another winger? But as soon as Kevin gets injured, this is the kind of thing that happened to us last season. We didn't have anyone to come in and kind of take that mantle on. But now we've got Oscar Bob and we've got Chukwueze. And even with Jedi effectively coming back into the squad, Cesc could play left wing as well. We have that abundance of riches up front and in the number 10 area that maybe we can push on without an injury crisis that we had last year. So that's the hope of why things can be different.
Yeah, for sure. Luke, we've got, West Ham. They are not in the best vein of form, has to be said. They're currently in the relegation zone, 25 points. They've only won 3 away games all season, which is quite frankly more than I thought they had. I mean, this game for them is a must-win, really. Whilst not mathematically, whilst we can't mathematically relegate them, you've got the feeling that it's really looking bad for them, especially when you look at their run of fixtures after playing us. So they have Brentford in the Cup, and then they've got Manchester City at home and Aston Villa away. I mean, they'll be looking at this game, Luke, as a must-win, surely.
Yeah, completely agreed. But I think so should we. This is a must-win game for us if we've got any European ambitions. And so if both teams are looking at it as a must-win, and you look at the football that we've played this season and the football that they've played, there's no excuse for us not to win this game. We're playing the team that are 18th in the Premier League at home. And I know that there's, been a bit of a bogey over us in previous seasons. We've not always got the results that some of our performances have deserved against them. But like we've just been saying, this is the serious point of the season. This is the point of a season where a team that doesn't just have European ambitions, but actually goes and gets Europe, wins this game, gets 3 points, sticks it in the table and says, you know what, go get your points from Aston Villa, go get a draw against Man City, but we're taking 3 points.
I concur. AF, any other concerns for looking at the West Ham game? Obviously, they strengthened in January, particularly up front. They had the signing of the striker from Lazio. Do you think they're destined to see the Champions League at QPR for us, or do you think they've got enough strength in this squad to stay up? Because if you look at their squad on paper, right, it does not look like a squad who should be battling relegation. They've got quality there. They've got Bowen, Somerville. What do you reckon?
The thing is, the Premier League is not on paper, because if it was, it would be easy to predict at the start of the season. It's more about those kind of the form that you get out of that. And I still think that West Ham are in deep trouble. You can easily look at their squad and say, yeah, they've signed new strikers. They've got Jared Bowen. That's always somewhere to start off from. But defensively, I still think they're massively able to be got at. And that's exactly where they're really losing most of their games. They're not scoring enough goals, but they're also conceding a fair amount as well. So the Liverpool game was a good example. They scored 2 goals and they still conceded 5. That's really where I think they're in serious trouble. So if Fulham are on form with their attacking on Wednesday, I don't see any concerns in this game. I feel as though that we should be able to score maybe 2 or 3, just like we aim to do against Tottenham. But you asked the question, was there any concerns? There's always concerns because it's Fulham. And my concern is that I've seen this happen way too many times, that you put a run of form together and you think, this makes sense, Fulham are going to go and win this. Everybody thinks Fulham are going to win it. And that's my problem, is that we're looking towards a game that we should win. Everybody thinks that we will. And Fulham probably still have it in their back of their head that there is a way that we can give West Ham points and keep another London club in the Premier League.
To doubt is to Fulham.
No, it'll be a good atmosphere. We're bringing home 3 points under the lights. Everyone will be up for it. Jubilant mood after Sunday. I'm feeling it. Let's press on. I think that's all we've got time for this podcast. Thanks for everyone for watching, listening, however you're joining us. I guess that's all that left for us to do is to name this podcast. What are you going to go for, AF? Did you have a favourite 3-word review you'd like to go for?
I did. Now, first of all, sorry to our very own Dan Cook. It's not dare to Diop, it's dare to double from Roche, baby.
Nice. Let's have it. Thank you very much, Charlie. Great to see you, mate.
Thank you very much. Shout out my guy James Wilson in Abilene, Kansas. Always enjoy talking Fulham with you, brother.
Nice. Thank you very much, Luke.
Always a pleasure, George.
And thank you, AF.
Thank you. Off to enjoy the sunshine.
Yeah, Thursday Club will be back, obviously, recounting the West Ham game. In the meantime, there is a preview to look out for on the Fulhamish YouTube channel with Elizabeth. So, yeah, plenty of Fulhamish content to get you through the next couple of days. But in the meantime, enjoy the sweet, sweet 3 points from Sunday. Have a great week. Enjoy the sunshine. We're making Europe. Come on, you Whites.